Well, I think people are very, very interested in getting sort of back to where we should be, which is using more natural things. We have a tendency as humans to want to understand stuff, and that's great. And so we do research, and we take a plant and put it on a spectrophotometer and see there's 83 chemicals in it, and somebody decides that's the one we want.
Right.
And they start making, they push a button, and the next thing you know, you got pills coming out of a machine somewhere that is that chemical. But they're missing the other 40 chemicals in that plant that are all doing things.
Right.
They're improving in digestion, they're improving metabolism, they're minimizing side effects. And when you take one guy out of that orchestra,
right.
You're missing the point. I mean, the bugle player is great. I have nothing against bugles, but man, if you have the whole orchestra, you have a very different experience.
Right.
And your body has, instead of one drug, he has a whole pharmacy laid in front of him. And if you need some of that, he takes it. Or you need some of this, he takes it. And if you give the body what it needs, it can solve all kinds of problems. And I find with plant medicines that that's the case. They have such a broad spectrum of activity. And the body's so accustomed to dealing with them,
Right.
When you take a drug, your body's saying, geez, what plant is that like? How do I metabolize that? When you take a plant, it's just a plant. It's just what to do with that.
Right. Kind of makes sense, work with the body instead of against the body.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, it's extraordinarily huge for self-reliance. I mean, I raised 15 children. I got 15 kids. Most of them are adopted. People always wondered if we had a TV set or not.
Well, there's that,
But yeah, no, but anyway, I think we had 2 doctor visits in the 30 years that I raised all those kids. And everything else we did with herbs, And if my kids were sick, they'd go out to the garden and get what they needed. It just became a part of the family culture. And in my veterinary practice, I had 2 little cupboards with drugs in them. And I had a whole room full of herbs because I could do all kinds of things with the plants I couldn't do with the medicines. And sometimes a medication or a surgery or whatever is absolutely the best thing to do. I'd be dead a couple of times if it wasn't for a good mechanic.
Right.
But the problem is that they just over prescribe. And a lot of the health problems, especially in the elderly, is from this polypharmacy where they're taking so many medications and nobody's keeping track, and nobody's saying, well, what? I'm just going to be adding another one. Why don't I look at what we're already doing here and seeing if maybe this is the problem?
Right.
It's really sad.